Cornelia Kaminski is the chairwoman of the Action for the Right to Life for All. She leads Germany's largest pro-life organisation with over 11,000 members. She represents ALFA on the board of the Federal Association for the Right to Life and is politically active in her role as state chairwoman of the Christian Democrats. Cornelia, thank you so much for joining us today. So Cornelia, Germany's Constitutional Court found that there is a constitutional right to a self-determined death in 2019. Can you share with our viewers an update on the euthanasia situation in Germany and where do you see it leading?
Well, it's currently legal to commit or to help people kill themselves. So assisted suicide is legal, euthanasia is not. With that court ruling, I think it was in 2020, Ash Wednesday, if I remember correctly, something very important was decided. So what the court basically said is that the right to assisted suicide is an act of, or is based on the right to self-determination and autonomy, and has to do with human dignity, of course. So basically, everybody has the right to kill themselves or to seek assistance in killing themselves. And there are, if you take that seriously, then of course no restrictions, because if the human dignity finds its expression in self-determination, and killing yourself is part of that or an expression of that self-determination, then you can't, of course, limit it. So that's what the court ruled, and it overturned a law that we had, paragraph 217 of the German law, which said that it prohibited basically businesses that offered help in dying or assisted suicide. And that ruling was that law was overturned. So now we have no law, nothing that in any way regulates assisted suicide in Germany. And that's a bit of a tricky situation. Some people say we need a law. So the government tried to pass a law in 2023, actually. So we had a couple of drafts for a law that were proposed to the Bundestag, but none of them was voted on. So none of them got the necessary majority. And we're left with no law regulating assisted suicide in Germany at all. So this means basically that anybody who helps another person commit suicide can't face prosecution. But it also means that because there are no regulations, people feel a bit unsure about it. So that neither those who ask for suicide nor the other ones are exactly on the safe side when they make use of this option.
Exactly, yeah. And given Germany's history with state-led euthanasia under the Third Reich, are we ignoring uncomfortable but crucial historical lessons here?
Oh, definitely, because what the court ruled here is that that human dignity finds its expression, as I said, in that autonomy, and that means that a person who is not autonomous anymore or who can't exercise his right to self-determination, does he really have human dignity anymore? And given our particular history, what we said in those, or what the idea of the Nazi ideology was at the time, that was that certain people should not be a burden for society. And so they said that those who are considered unfit, namely disabled people, people with the Down syndrome, for instance, or the elderly or demented persons, or even criminals, because they were considered a burden for society, it was okay to get rid of them. So they set up a couple of killing camps, really, 6 of them in Germany. And what we need to remember is that these killing camps were more or less training camps for those who later then worked in the extermination camps in Dachau or Auschwitz. So that T4 Aktion program that the Nazis established, that was a precursor of what happened later, of killing the Jews. This is where the people got the training for that. So we desperately need to remember that history.
Wow, that's so callous. And what do you believe is underpinning the mindset between the cultural link of abortion and euthanasia?
Well, I think there's a couple of things to say about that. One is, most importantly, the primacy of self-determination over the right to life. So when the state says that the autonomy of the person is more important than the state's duty to protect the life of the people, then that's dangerous. That's one thing. Another thing is that, of course, when we discuss burdens, these people, the elderly people who are considered a burden to society now, we had the president of the medical association who said a couple of years ago that we need to tackle this resilience of people, this unwillingness to die, and that we have to think of ways of finding socially acceptable early death and discuss costs for that. So the idea that these old people are a burden to society, that is, of course, the argument that we hear when we talk about abortion. People want to abort a child because they say it's a burden to me. I can't live with that child now. So those who opt for an abortion now, do they have the right to say, well, that child was a burden for me, isn't there to take care of me? Now I need other people's children. Now I'm a burden. Do I still have a right to life? Or would other people maybe say, no, you don't. You said that child, that human being was a burden. Now you're a burden. You face the same fate. And then, of course, there's this whole fact that we miss 1/3 of Generation Z. So the people to look after the elder ones or after the sick, they're simply not there anymore.
It's shocking, isn't it, when you really relay the facts out like that? Now, I understand you have a so-called Christian chancellor in government in Germany, but how pro-life are the German governments?
Friedrich Merz, you mean? You want to know whether he's a Christian politician?
Yeah. Is he being a voice for life as a Christian politician, as one would expect or hope?
That's an interesting question. I think the Christian Democrats, there are many leaders who would call themselves Christians, and I know for a fact that there are quite a number of them who are really active practicing Christians. So they take that very seriously, and I think they also know that the base in Germany, the people who vote for them, they take their Christian beliefs seriously. So it does have an influence, I should say, on their politics. But, in everyday life, when you are in a coalition with a partner and they are socialists, you have to compromise. And in a country that has a growing population that is either non-denominational or Muslim or, any other religion, then you have to compromise as well. And that's a tough job that they are doing right now, I'd say.
Was there any Christian politician who voted for this?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a tricky question because when we talk about this assisted suicide law, of course, we had a couple of Christian politicians who tried to draft a law that was somehow in line with their Christian beliefs. But that's difficult. And the challenge that they faced is that any restrictions that they write into the law could be overturned at the Constitutional Court, because people say, yeah, well, but the Constitutional Court says autonomy, self-determination, and then no restrictions can work. So, but they tried to do their very best, even under the circumstances. As far as pro-life issues are concerned, we had a left-leaning government until February this year, a coalition of socialists and Greens and the Liberal Party. And they passed a couple of laws that liberalized abortion in Germany, and the Christian Democrats always voted unanimously against it. So when I addressed the leaders, for instance, here in my country, in my state, in Hesse, and talked about that, the response that I get is we stand firm, pro-life. And fighting for the rights of the unborn, that's part of our DNA, of the DNA of our party.
Fantastic. And you recently had another major win, actually, by preventing a major pro-abortion judge from not entering the Germany's Supreme Court. How important was that victory for you?
It was very important, I'd say, for two reasons. One reason is that we managed to mobilize really thousands of people at very short notice, and that we realized, well, if the issue is right, if we tackle it in the right way, then we can win. We can have an impact. So it was important for us. It was, of course, very important for the country, and it alerted politicians because they realized that you shouldn't mess with the concept of human dignity, not in Germany. That is really something which is very important to us. We believe as Germans that you cannot categorize people. You can't put them into a category of more human dignity or less human dignity. We've had that in our past. And don't ever do that again. That rings a bell, and that still works with us very well, I'd say. So that was important. And then, of course, the second very important thing is that those people who stopped the election in Parliament, they did not follow the party whip. So they were, if you want, disobedient. And that doesn't usually go down very well with the party whip. You know how that works in politics. But they decided to follow their conscience instead. And that takes great courage and great perseverance. But it's very hard the first time, not so hard the second time. So I think that was important too. And we, the people, we cherish MPs, don't we all, that follow their conscience and not what the party whip says.
They have a backbone, the ones who stand for truth and follow their conscience.
Yes.
I like what you said there, that it's the first time is hard, but as you go on and continue to be brave, it gets a bit easier. And I noticed that in my own life as well, that it's hard initially to stand up, but then overall you get more and more confident, and people come alongside you who are also standing up for the truth, so you're never alone. How did the media respond then to that major win for the pro-life movement over in Germany?
Well, I have to say that at the start we had a couple of newspapers on our side, a couple of journalists, some very important ones. So major German newspapers who said, look, this judge, she's really a no-go. So we had a very broad coalition, let's say, for a number of reasons. One is she was she said something like, for instance, that the fetus becomes a human being when the mother births it. So it's the pregnant woman who really turns the fetus into a human being, which is crazy, of course. But she was also very much for a vaccination mandate. So we had a couple of people on our side on this issue, and that was good at the start, and it was very important afterwards because, as to be expected, the rather liberal left-wing legacy media started the usual shitstorm of calling us all a fundamentalist, extremist, right-wing Christians we really had a conspiracy going on. You know, we conspired with all sorts of very dark and shady figures in order to bring this whim about.
And what tactics or strategies made the difference in that campaign, do you think?
I think it's two things. One is that we actually really managed to mobilize so many people with just a couple of emails, that we hit the right note, that we provided them with very factual information, very well proofed, and with bullet points that they could use for their own letters. So I know that thousands of letters and emails were actually really sent to our 600-something MPs. They were literally flooded with protest notes from the voters and from the voters and their constituencies. So not just random people, but people that they meet next Sunday at church or on the market square, wherever. So that's one thing. And another thing is that I, for instance, I think others did that too. I talked to politicians in person. Not on the phone, but I actually talked to them when I had a possibility to meet them. I also wrote letters, of course, and I keep these conversations very short, and I just alert them to something and say, look, this is what is happening. And then I send a paper with factual information that they can use to pass on to their colleagues. And it's always very well proved, so they can fact check it and realize, oh yeah, this is not just fake information, this is really important. And that works, I think. So
that's a great model for us to learn from in the UK as well, that our supporters, which are great, and I know we've always asked them to email MPs and they've been doing that, but it just shows the power of when people actually do what can happen in government. Do you see Germany's drift on life issues as part of a wider European pattern, and should the UK, especially Scotland, be watching this closely?
I think Germany is very important. More important than other countries. And that has to do with our past. Because if you can, this Nazi past in which we actually did that, we killed people on a massive scale because we said, you're not human, you don't have dignity. And if we can be made to forget that past and this responsibility, then anything is possible. This history is part of our national DNA, I'd say. We learn it at school from day one, more or less. So we're very much alert to all these things. And that's why I think Germany is more important than other nations. And of course, Europe is playing a destructive role, I'd say, when it comes to pro-life issues. We know that the European Parliament is hell-bent on liberalizing abortion all over the place. And I've talked to a politician, an MP of the European Parliament, who said they're absolutely crazy when it comes to that. So it's, and we have to put up a very tough fight. If Germany falls in these matters, then anything is possible. And that's, I think, why internationally the pressure is very high on Germany, and why the left in our country were so desperate to get to change our laws, which are rather protective still of the unborn and of the embryo and of the elderly as well.
So true. And now, with the younger generation in Germany, are there growing pro-life voices within that?
I'd say so, yes. So, of course, with the recent successes, we managed to attract more people. So, my organization has grown. We have more members than ever before at present. So, we're something like 11,000 members now, and many young people come and join us because they see that it is a good thing to fight for the right thing, and it's more rewarding. It's more attractive because it cherishes life. And we all know that young people are enthusiastic and they like to stand up for rights and they like to stand up for what they consider to be important. But it is always just climate change and curbing down on carbon emissions and that sort of thing. It's not really fun, is it? But to fight for a baby, that's
Yes,
great.
yeah.
That's something people like to do.
It's important, it's vital. So what is your ultimate goal now for the future?
My ultimate goal is to make abortion unthinkable. That would be fantastic. To make people understand that the abortion industry is the one big giant liar in the world today, that abortion harms everyone, and that it's not even a solution or an easy solution, of course not, but it really is at the root of many of our problems. So yeah, that's something I would hope for. In the near future, I hope that people understand how dangerous the abortion pill is, chemical abortions, how harmful that is to women. That's something that we're working on right now.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Cornelia, for your time and for all
Yeah.
the hard work that you do for the unborn and for women. I greatly appreciate it.